Kuroniko and Ryota had been childhood friends who spent a lot of time together when they were young. One night, exactly 10 years earlier, Kuroniko and Ryota went out to look at the stars using a telescope. Kuroniko even claimed that she had seen an alien the day before. That night later became something Ryota deeply regretted. He believed he had made two serious mistakes. The first was not turning back at the right moment when he slipped while they were walking near a tall wall. The second mistake was grabbing Kuroniko's hand, which caused both of them to fall. Since that day, Ryota often spent his nights staring at the sky through a telescope, hoping that he might somehow see Kuroniko again. When he reached 11th grade in high school, Ryota planned to become part of a NASA research program. He wanted to get as close to space as possible and prove that aliens truly existed in the place Kuroniko had once described. He believed that this was the only way to atone for his mistake toward her. As a child, Kuroniko had firmly believed in the existence of aliens because she claimed to have encountered one herself, and she even said that she knew where they were. Ryota once asked Kuroniko to take him to that place, and she agreed on the condition that he would not tell anyone else about it. After that, Kuroniko led Ryota through a forest to a certain location. They had always played together, and Ryota genuinely liked Kuroniko. He thought he knew everything about her. However, when the topic of aliens first came up, Ryota could not immediately bring himself to believe her. When they arrived at their destination, Kuroniko said that the alien was there and that Ryota would believe her once he saw it. That was the day the tragic incident happened. Ryota later woke up in a hospital, and it was considered a miracle that he had survived the fall. Medical staff informed him that Kuroniko was also safe and receiving treatment at another hospital. Ryota then began to think about what he should say so that Kuroniko could forgive him. He felt that if he had believed in her story right away, she might have felt less alone. One day, as Ryota was about to be discharged from the hospital, he learned the truth. Kuroniko had fallen from a dam and had passed away instantly. Upon hearing this, Ryota broke down in overwhelming grief, and the medical staff tried to calm him. Ryota could no longer remember Kuroniko's real name. The only thing he clearly remembered was a small mole under her arm, and he kept calling out to her name in despair. One morning at school, Ryota's classmates informed him that he had achieved the highest score in the 11th grade mock exams. Ryota was confused because he believed he had only ranked third. Risa mentioned that Ryota was actually the top student that year. Ryota simply thanked her. His classmates wondered why Ryota always seemed distant toward girls. In reality, he was not being cold, he simply did not know how to interact with them. Not long after, a teacher entered the classroom and asked everyone to return to their seats. The teacher brought in a transfer student and introduced her to the class. The students were surprised, as transferring schools was known to be very difficult. When Ryota saw the new student, he was shocked. The teacher introduced her as Kuroha Neko. Ryota could hardly believe it, as the new student looked exactly like Kuroniko. He began to wonder whether Neko might actually be Kuroniko, especially since he had never seen Kuroniko's body. Ryota asked if Neko was truly alive, which shocked everyone in the classroom. Neko stated that it was the first time she had ever met Ryota. Ryota denied this and insisted that they had been childhood friends, assuming that she might not remember him. He was convinced that Neko was his childhood friend and claimed that he could prove it. But his words came out in an inappropriate and impulsive way. The entire class was stunned by his behavior. Ryota quickly realized that he had gone too far, and Neko reacted by striking him in anger. After that incident, his classmates began to think that Ryota had lost his mind from studying too much. Meanwhile, the girls gathered around Neko and complimented her uniform. Ryota began to suspect that he had mistaken her for someone else. Later, during swimming class, Ryota's class practiced diving in the pool. Some students made inappropriate comments, which made Ryota uncomfortable and upset. When Neko entered the pool, she suddenly panicked and was quickly helped by other students. She lay weakly by the side of the pool while teachers and students made sure she was safe. Soon after, it was Risa's turn to practice diving. Unexpectedly, the pool's drain cover had come loose, and Risa's leg was pulled into the opening, leaving her unable to free herself. She struggled to hold her breath while the female teacher instructed others to alert the pool staff to shut down the pump. The teacher entered the pool to rescue Risa and kept trying to pull her free. However, it became increasingly dangerous as Risa's strength faded. Neko had already sensed that something terrible was going to happen that day. She believed that two students were destined to lose their lives. Suddenly, a powerful vibration cracked the edge of the pool, and Risa was finally freed. The teacher felt immense relief knowing that Risa had survived. It was considered a miracle that Risa had been saved, as such incidents were extremely rare at that school. That afternoon, Ryota stepped off the bus and walked toward the observation room. For him, gazing at the stars in the sky was the best way to release the exhaustion of the day. As he prepared to look up at the night sky, he realized that he still could not accept Kuroniko's passing. He knew very well that Naoko was not Kuroniko because Kuroniko had died. Even though 10 years had passed, Ryota still struggled to face that reality and refused to truly acknowledge that Kuroniko was gone. Deep down, he wished he could erase all memories of her. Not long after, Naoko suddenly appeared, startling him. She asked whether the stars could be seen clearly from that place. Ryota explained that he was currently the only member of the astronomy club. The previous year, there had still been a senior student, but if no one joined the following year, he planned to disband the club. Ryota admitted that Naoko truly resembled his childhood friend, which was why he had said something strange in class earlier that morning. He also mentioned that his childhood friend had been a young girl who believed in the existence of aliens, and that she had died because of a mistake he had made. For that reason, Ryota continued searching for aliens through his telescope. Naoko firmly stated that she did not know Ryota's childhood friend at all, and that she had only met him that morning. She explained that she had come to inform him that 2 students at the school were destined to die. The first had been the person trapped in the pool earlier that day, but had survived, while the second was Ryota himself. Ryota was confused by her words and questioned why she would say such a thing. Naoko explained that Ryota had to take the last bus, and if he did not, he would die. Ryota wondered why he should trust such a prediction. Naoko continued urging him to take the bus, while Ryota responded that she did not need to tell him that, because if he did not take the bus, he would not be able to go home anyway. Naoko then noticed a painting of constellations and asked how many constellations were shown there. Ryota pointed to the list displayed in the room. Naoko immediately began counting them one by one, but Ryota stopped her and explained that there were 6 rows and 8 columns, making a total of 48. Naoko praised him for being able to calculate so quickly. Ryota found that reaction strange, since he had only multiplied the numbers in a simple way. Naoko then asked what multiplication was. Ryota was shocked and asked whether she had not studied multiplication in school. Naoko admitted that she knew about multiplication, but could not remember how it worked. Ryota tested her with several basic multiplication problems, only to find that she became confused and answered incorrectly. He truly could not understand how a student who did not remember multiplication tables had been admitted to the same school. Naoko explained that she had her own reasons and stated that she was extremely strong. Ryota wondered whether she might be an athlete, but Naoko denied it. He was puzzled by her confidence and assumed that there was no way he could lose to an untrained girl. Ryota then challenged her to an arm strength contest. To his surprise, Naoko defeated him almost instantly, leaving him in noticeable discomfort. She apologized, explaining that she had not meant to use that much strength. Ryota examined Naoko's arm out of curiosity and was confused by what he felt. Her arm did not appear particularly muscular and felt soft, yet it clearly held immense power. Naoko became visibly embarrassed by the situation and admitted that she was not used to such close attention, which made her nervous. Ryota quickly realized the awkwardness and clarified that he had no inappropriate intentions. He admitted to himself that Naoko was indeed beautiful and strongly resembled Kuroniko. At Ryota's request, Naoko tensed her arm again so he could better understand her strength. Even then, he could not comprehend how he had lost so easily to someone who appeared so physically gentle. Naoko commented that Ryota simply seemed weak. Shortly afterward, she received a signal from her old-fashioned radio. Ryota was stunned when he heard Naoko mention that it seemed they had decided to let him die. Moments later, Naoko told him that it appeared he would be fine even if he did not take the bus after all. Ryota grew increasingly curious about what Naoko had heard through the radio. She advised that if he missed the bus, he should stay overnight at the observation site. Naoko asked him to trust her, reminding him that she had already warned him. Her words strongly reminded Ryota of something Kuroniko had once said. After that, Naoko quickly left. Ryota began to reflect on everything Naoko had told him. If her words were true, then taking or not taking the bus was the difference between life and death. He also thought that if her prediction was accurate, heavy rain should fall soon. However, the weather forecast had predicted clear skies, so rain seemed impossible. Contrary to expectations, a sudden downpour began. Walking through the heavy rain, Naoko managed to save both Risa and Ryota that day. As she moved forward, she recalled the time when Akane had been trapped beneath rubble. Back then, Akane had urged Naoko to run, entrusting her with something important and asking her never to forget it. Akane had believed that Naoko was the only one capable of saving the world from destruction. Even now, Naoko did not fully understand what it meant to save the world, but she knew that she could save people who were about to die. Not long after, Naoko's radio reported that Ryota had not followed her earlier instructions. At that time, Ryota deliberately let the bus pass and chose not to stay overnight in the observation room. It seemed that he wanted to test Naoko's words. If what Naoko had said was true, then Ryota believed he would die. He wondered whether he could truly trust her, yet he still wanted to confirm her warning, even if his own life was at risk. Ryota considered the possible dangers. He thought about whether he might be attacked by criminals in such a deserted place, or if a large-scale disaster like an earthquake could happen, which would surely cause many victims. Unexpectedly, a cliff near him suddenly collapsed and crashed down onto him. The landslide buried his legs and left him unable to move. Not long after that, a massive rock rolled down from above, heading straight toward him. At that moment, Ryota realized that Neko really could see the future. Fortunately, she arrived just in time and stopped the huge rock using her power. The rock was shattered and thrown into the river. Neko immediately scolded Ryota for ignoring her warning. Ryota was still in disbelief after witnessing her split such a massive rock with ease. Neko admitted that she had known Ryota would die if he missed the bus, which was why she had warned him. However, when Ryota decided to chase the bus instead, her vision of the future changed. Ryota then understood that if he had boarded the bus, it would have stopped briefly, and the falling rock would have struck the bus instead, causing many more casualties. That was the reason Neko had told him to stay in the observation room. Neko was confused about why Ryota still chose to leave even though he understood the warning. On the other hand, Ryota began to question who Neko truly was. She claimed that she was a witch, but Ryota found it hard to believe. Neko found his reaction strange, especially since he was willing to believe in aliens. Ryota did not actually want to believe her, but if she was not a witch, then none of what he had seen could be explained. Ryota asked how Neko could possess such incredible power. In response, she showed him that her body had been altered through medical procedures and experimental drugs, which shocked him deeply. Neko admitted that she never wanted to use her power. She had escaped from researchers and did not want anyone to know that she was a witch. Deep in his heart, Ryota still hoped that Neko might be Kuroniko. However, Neko did not have the distinctive mole that Kuroniko had, making it clear that she was not the person he was hoping for. Neko did not want anyone to find out that she was a witch, because if she were ever captured, her life would be taken. She begged Ryota not to tell anyone about it. Neko then walked away, and when Ryota called out to her, she asked him not to come near her again. She said that she was not the childhood friend he remembered, but merely a stranger. When Ryota and Kuroniko were still children, they often spent time watching constellations together. Kuroniko truly enjoyed gazing at the beautiful star-filled sky. The following week, their school had planned a field trip to the sea. Ryota knew that Kuroniko had never seen the ocean before, so he was sure she would be excited about the trip. However, she denied it, even though she had secretly prepared a swim ring in anticipation of swimming in the sea. Unfortunately, Kuroniko passed away before she ever had the chance to see the ocean. Ryota had dreamed about those childhood memories many times since then. Ryota woke up from his sleep and immediately went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. His thoughts were still stuck on Kuroniko. Sadly, Neko did not have the same beauty mark that Kuroniko once had, yet he still could not fully shake the feeling that they might be connected somehow. From that moment on, Ryota decided to learn more about Neko. That day, Neko did not come to school. The teacher asked Ryota to deliver a transfer form to her and told him it had to be returned the next day. The teacher mentioned that Neko seemed to live somewhere near the observatory. In addition, the teacher also entrusted Ryota with the field trip guide for the upcoming trip next week. After school, Ryota set out to find Neko's address. However, after walking for quite a while, he could not find any houses in the area. Not long after, several vehicles from the defense forces passed by. Ryota did not understand what they were doing there, and he wondered if something serious had happened. At the same time, he noticed two girls being detained inside one of the vehicles. It turned out that the address the teacher had given him was merely a scenic viewpoint. If the lab were searching for her, Neko would never have given her real location. Ryota then noticed a village nearby. That village was supposed to have been submerged in the past, but the dam project had been cancelled. Without hesitation, Ryota climbed over the fence and entered the village. He suddenly heard Neko's voice singing. Following the sound, he found her hanging laundry outside. Ryota greeted her, which startled Neko. She became visibly embarrassed when she realized he had come to see her. Neko asked why he was there, and Ryota explained that the teacher had asked him to deliver the transfer form, which needed to be returned the next day. Neko said she no longer needed the form, because the person who was supposed to lose her life had survived, so there was no reason for her to attend school anymore. Ryota was confused and wondered if that was the only reason she had transferred to his school. Neko then admitted that she had always been curious about what school was like, and that she truly wanted to experience it. For 10 years, she had been kept in a lab as a subject of magical experiments and was never allowed to learn anything. Ryota begged Neko to come back to school the next day, but instead she asked him to leave because she felt he was disturbing her. Ryota then asked why Neko had saved him before. Neko explained that she could not allow someone to lose their life if she had the power to prevent it. Ryota said he felt the same way. He did not want Neko to be captured or harmed by the lab, especially since he was not convinced she could survive on her own, considering she did not even understand basic multiplication. Neko felt offended and insisted that multiplication tables were useless in that era. Shortly after, a voice could be heard from inside the house, sounding like someone asking for help. Neko denied it, even though the voice was clearly audible. Ryota was confused as to why she would lie like that. Neko insisted she was not lying and claimed that the sound did not come from a person. Ryota did not believe her and tried to intervene, but Neko stopped him using her power. She then asked him to leave. Ryota decided to comply, but when he reached the village gate, he suddenly remembered the field trip guide. Since the trip location was near the sea, it reminded him of Kuroneko. He wondered why he could not stop thinking about Neko, even after being pushed away. Ryota questioned whether it was because Neko resembled Kuroneko, or because a part of him still believed Kuroneko might somehow still exist. Ryota quietly returned to Neko's house, careful not to be seen. He believed that if Neko noticed him, she might see him as someone with bad intentions. From outside, Ryota overheard Neko speaking to someone else. She explained that she had been forced to scold Ryota because they were not allowed to befriend anyone. If she became close to him, his life would also be put in danger. She added that she would not live much longer, so it was better for her not to form any bonds at all. Ryota was shocked and did not understand what she meant by not having much time left. Neko said that until that day came, she would continue doing things that others could not. It was then time for the person living with her to take medication, so Neko went to get some water. As soon as Neko left the room, Ryota quietly slipped inside. He was curious about who she had been talking to earlier, especially since he had not heard a single response from the other person. For a moment, he even wondered if Neko had been talking to herself. To his surprise, Ryota found a young girl lying on the bed. He wondered what had happened to her, why she was not moving, and whether she was still alive, as her appearance was eerily still. Ryota wondered whether the girl was nothing more than a doll shaped like a human, so he tried to touch her to make sure. Suddenly, Neko appeared and explained that Kana was actually alive. Ryota was startled and apologized, saying that he only wanted to confirm what he was seeing. Neko then explained that Kana was also a witch experiment, but her body had become paralyzed as a result. In exchange, Kana had gained an extraordinary ability. Ryota asked whether Kana possessed the power to see the future. It turned out that she truly could. Kana was unable to speak, but she could move the fingers of her left hand. Because of that, she used a keyboard to communicate with Neko. The sound Ryota had heard earlier was not a human voice, but the sound produced by a machine. Kana suddenly typed a message, calling Ryota inappropriate for sneaking into her room and labeling him a hypocritical stalker. She questioned why she had saved someone like him, especially since in her earlier vision, Ryota was supposed to be involved in a fatal accident. Neko apologized to Ryota, explaining that Kana's words often sounded harsh. Kana then informed Neko that the people from the laboratory had captured Kanad. At the same time, Kanad had been taken together with Maki. Neko was shocked to learn this. Kanad had been in the same laboratory as Neko and Kana, and all three of them had escaped together in the past. Neko wanted to rescue Kanad, but Kana explained that it was not possible. She also said that she already knew what would happen next, and they did not even know the laboratory's location. Kana urged Neko to think calmly. Neko broke down in tears. Ryota tried to comfort her, but Neko asked him to leave and never come back. Ryota quietly left Neko's house. After that, Neko could only cry. Kana told her that there was still something she could do, which was to go to school and enjoy her time for the sake of both of them. Neko did not understand what Kana meant. According to Kana, their time left in the world was not long, so at the very least, Neko should try to enjoy it. Kana also told Neko not to worry about her, explaining that without Neko, she would have died long ago. She was deeply grateful to Neko. The next day, Neko went to high school. That day, the class was having a Japanese history lesson. The teacher read part of a historical passage and then asked Neko to continue reading. Neko was instantly startled, her face turning red from nervousness. Ryota began to wonder whether Neko might not be able to read very well. When Neko tried to read the book she was holding, it became clear that she could not read kanji properly. The entire class was shocked. Ryota quickly stepped in to help. He claimed that he was feeling unwell and asked Neko to accompany him to the student infirmary. Neko immediately grabbed her radio and followed Ryota out of the classroom. As they walked down the stairs, Ryota admitted that he did not understand how Naoko had been able to enroll in that school. After seeing what happened in class, he felt that she might eventually be exposed. Naoko could not read kanji properly and did not even understand multiplication tables. Ryota suggested that they should avoid returning to class for the time being. Naoko explained that she had already submitted her enrollment form. Ryota then asked whether she had read the guide for the upcoming school trip. He mentioned that the class would be going to the sea the following week. Naoko admitted that she did not know whether she would be joining the trip or not. Ryota immediately asked for her reason. Naoko was confused about why Ryota cared so much about her situation. Ryota explained that when he was younger, a childhood friend of his had always wanted to see the ocean. By taking Naoko to the sea, he felt that he could finally fulfill that old wish in some way. Not long after that, Kana contacted Naoko and informed her that someone at a curry shop near the station would die in 15 minutes. Naoko immediately ran toward the location, with Ryota following closely behind. According to the vision, the victim was supposed to be a woman wearing red who would be hit by a car. They ran as fast as they could. A woman on a bicycle nearly collided with them and scolded them for running in the street. Naoko and Ryota apologized quickly and continued running. Unfortunately, the 15 minutes passed, and they saw that a car had crashed into the curry shop. Naoko felt devastated because they had arrived too late to prevent the accident. She believed that if they had run just a little faster, they might have been able to save someone. Ryota realized that what Naoko was feeling was the burden of knowing an accident would happen, but being unable to stop it. In her heart, it felt as though she had caused the tragedy herself. Soon after, people around the scene began saying that it was fortunate no one had been hurt in the accident. They explained that the driver had suffered a sudden problem while driving, but luckily there had been no pedestrians nearby. Ryota and Naoko were confused about why there were no victims. They wondered whether Kana's vision had been wrong. When Ryota noticed the woman in red who had nearly collided with them earlier, he finally understood. The person who was supposed to be hit by the car was likely that woman, but the timing of the accident had changed because she had stopped in the road earlier when she almost ran into Naoko and Ryota. If not for them, she might have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Naoko felt deeply relieved and grateful that no one had lost their life. Meanwhile, Kanad was being held captive by the lab personnel. She asked them to release Maki, but it turned out that anyone who had witnessed Kanad's magic was never allowed to live freely afterward. The researchers questioned her about the whereabouts of the other witches. Kanad explained that she did not know, since she had been separated from the others during their escape. When Kanad was about to be removed from the facility, she desperately wished to stay alive and promised that she would not try to escape again. However, the lab staff proceeded with the process anyway. In a very short moment, Kanad's body dissolved, leaving nothing behind. The head of research, a man named Shisato, then ordered his subordinates to immediately track down the remaining witches. The next day, Kana mentioned that she was feeling extremely hungry. Naoko was also hungry and planned to go into the mountains to look for food. Kana complained because she no longer wanted to eat herbal plants. Suddenly, Ryota arrived carrying food. Naoko was overjoyed since she had been starving at the time. Ryota had brought yakisoba and cake. Ryota wondered whether Kana could eat as well. Kana was unable to chew, but she could still swallow. Naoko showed the cake to Kana, and Kana became incredibly happy, especially because she had not eaten anything like that for 10 years. Ryota felt confident that Naoko and Kana had never tasted food like this before. Naoko immediately put the cake into a blender, which shocked Ryota. Kana felt uneasy seeing such a beautiful cake being blended. Although the house had electricity, it did not have gas, so Naoko usually cooked using firewood. After Naoko fed the blended cake to Kana, Kana indicated that she wanted to save some of it for later. Ryota then mentioned that the cake had actually been his portion. Unexpectedly, Naoko was taken aback and began to cry. Ryota did not understand why Naoko reacted that way, but he decided to give up his share of the cake for them. Ryota could not understand why he felt like he wanted to stay in that place forever. Perhaps it was because Naoko reminded him of Kuroniko. That night, Ryota prepared to leave. Naoko expressed her gratitude to him, and Ryota said that he would bring more food for them again. Not long after that, Naoko mentioned that she might be joining the summer school trip. She explained that she had not seen the ocean in a very long time. She also said that she would try to adjust herself to life at school. Ryota then noticed that Naoko's nose was bleeding. The blood flowed heavily, causing him to panic. The following day, Naoko did not go to school. Classmates talked among themselves about Naoko, who had been absent frequently even though she was a transfer student. Not long after, Naoko finally showed up at school with bandages covering her body. Everyone was confused and wondered what had happened to her. When Ryota asked about her condition, Naoko explained that she had only been dealing with a fever. Ryota did not fully believe that explanation. Naoko insisted that she was still fine and even claimed she could go to the beach, yet she never explained the real reason behind her injuries. The next day, Naoko was absent again. Ryota immediately went to her house, and just as he expected, he heard Kana's mechanical voice repeatedly calling out Naoko's name. Ryota rushed to Naoko's room and found her collapsed and badly weakened. He carefully lifted her and tried to understand what was truly going on. Naoko asked him to bring her to the kitchen. There she took a pill from a cabinet. Witches were required to take a death-delaying medicine every day in order to survive. If they failed to take the pill for more than 30 hours, their bodies would begin to break down, and several hours later, it would result in death. Naoko only had 10 pills left, which was just enough for her and Kana to last 5 days. Ryota could not believe that Naoko had waited until the very last moment to take the medicine. She had endured it for as long as she could, but she admitted that she would not be able to join the school trip scheduled for 8 days later. Ryota blamed himself for inviting Naoko to the beach. Naoko asked him not to dwell on it, explaining that she would be fine after taking the pill. She also told him not to feel guilty, because she had genuinely wanted to see the ocean for a long time. After that, Ryota went to Kana's room and explained that Naoko had fallen asleep in the kitchen. He then asked where the pills came from. Kana explained that the medicine could only be obtained from the laboratory where they had been created, but she did not know its location. Since she only had 5 days left to live, she asked Ryota to bring them cake during those remaining days. Not long after, Naoko woke up and wanted to clean herself. She heated water for a bath and later approached Ryota, who was chopping firewood outside. Naoko told him that she felt fine after taking the death-delaying medicine. Ryota explained that Kana had asked him to prepare the firewood, but Naoko pointed out that they did not need that much. Ryota could not accept the idea of Naoko and Kana dying like that, and he wished he could somehow obtain more pills. Suddenly, smoke began to rise from Naoko's house. Ryota panicked and asked what had happened. Naoko explained that the smoke came from boiling water earlier. Ryota told her to deal with the kitchen while he went to get Kana out. Kana, confused by the smoke filling her room, was quickly carried out by Ryota, who carefully supported her as he brought her outside. Ryota returned to Naoko while carrying Kana. Naoko apologized to Kana, explaining that all of the remaining pills had been destroyed. Kana began to weaken rapidly, and Naoko broke down, blaming herself. Kana asked Naoko not to worry, calmly accepting that her end would simply come sooner. She even asked Naoko to end her life quickly, so she would not have to suffer later. Ryota tried to reassure both of them, believing that everything could still be fixed. He explained that they only needed to obtain the medicine from its creator, the Dresden pharmaceutical company at the Takayama factory. Ryota recalled the code printed on the medicine. The letters DR stood for the pharmaceutical company, the number 623 indicated the drug type, and the letter G represented the Takayama factory. Naoko wondered if it was normal to know such detailed information. Ryota explained that he had read about it in a book before. His memory was unusually strong, allowing him to remember everything he had seen even after only one glance, which could be considered a special ability. Unfortunately, that ability also meant he could not forget things he wished he could erase, and that was often painful. Naoko believed, however, that this pain was still better than forgetting something truly important. Ryota then suggested that they search for the location of the medicine and the factory together. He planned to use the computer in the observatory room. As they headed there, Ryota asked whether Naoko could use her power to move Kana. Naoko explained that it was impossible for her. Her ability was designed to destroy things, and she could not control it when touching a person. It was the same reason she had once overpowered Ryota in an arm wrestling match, and it was fortunate that his arm had not been seriously damaged. After arriving at the observatory room, Ryota began looking for information about the death delay medicine, but unfortunately, he could not find anything about the pill. He had no idea where the factory was located exactly, but he knew that taking a bus or train would eventually lead there. The real problem was the security system at the factory. Kana suggested asking Kazumi for help. Kazumi was a friend of Kana and Naoko, and they had escaped together in the past. Kazumi was highly skilled with anything related to the internet, and Naoko had managed to enter the school thanks to Kazumi's help. If they asked Kazumi, she might be able to disable the factory's security system. However, Kazumi's help always came at a high price. Ryota found it strange that even though Kazumi was Naoko's friend, payment was still required. It turned out that Kazumi was not asking for money, but for death delay pills as compensation. Ryota realized that this was no different from Naoko trading her life to ask for help. He also understood that this meant Neko and Kana were risking their lives just to help him. At that moment, they had no pills left, and to pay Kazumi, they would have to split the stolen pills. Neko immediately contacted Kazumi, explaining her concern that continued communication might lead to them being captured. Neko asked for help, and Kazumi requested pills as payment. Neko explained that she was going to the death delay pill factory and promised to pay once she obtained the pills. Kazumi quickly understood that Neko wanted her to shut down the factory's security system. Kazumi showed interest, but only if she received half of the pills Neko planned to steal. Hearing that condition, Ryota thought Kazumi was being greedy. Kazumi was surprised to hear Ryota's voice and questioned why Neko was involving an outsider in such a dangerous matter, especially since involving others could lead to serious consequences. Ryota admitted that he was already aware of the risks. He then asked whether Kazumi was truly capable of disabling the security system. Kazumi reacted confidently, suggesting that her abilities allowed her to do things far beyond what normal people could manage. Ryota worried that such power could cause even bigger problems. Suddenly, Kana warned Neko that if she went any further, she would be targeted and face a fatal outcome. Kana strongly opposed Neko going to the factory. Meanwhile, one of Chisato's subordinates, Korofuku, reported that someone was investigating the code related to the death delay pills. That person was disguising their IP address, entering as an anonymous user, and using an overseas proxy. Chisato stated that capturing all the witches would bring everything to an end. He then ordered Saori to eliminate every witch who had escaped without exception. Chisato made it clear that failure would not be tolerated. At that time, Neko questioned why she was destined to die. Kana explained that Saori would ambush her at the factory. Saori was a witch ranked AA. The highest witch rank was AAA, while the lowest was C. Neko, Kana, and Kazumi were ranked B or lower. Neko concluded that they were being discarded because they were considered failures. Saori was capable of using A-class magic, which they could not defeat. Ryota asked about the accuracy of Kana's future visions. Neko explained that when rounded, Kana's visions were always correct, but the future could still change if they took action. Kana explained that if her vision was incorrect, she would see a new future, and if she saw nothing at all, it meant the future would remain unchanged. Neko pointed out that because they now knew an ambush was coming, they had a chance to change the future. However, Ryota worried that if the enemy knew Neko was coming, the lab staff might already have moved the pills. Ryota asked Kazumi to give pills to Neko and Kana. Kazumi was confused by this request and questioned whether Ryota wanted her condition to worsen even faster. Kana believed that the lab would not let them live anyway, so there was no reason for them to bother relocating the pills. Ryota then asked what kind of magic Saori used. Kana explained that Saori's ability was cutting-type magic, allowing her to cut anything within a 6-meter radius. Saori was equipped with a harness system, and if she tried to escape, it would trigger an ejection process that would result in her death. Neko then explained that the harness had 3 buttons. The lower right button was the hang-up function, which would cause a witch to lose her abilities over several days. The lower left button was the eject function, which would immediately end a witch's life. Magic had no effect on the harness itself. The third button's function was unknown, and they had only been told that it was worse than death. Because of that, no one dared to press it. Kana spoke again about her future vision and, after considering their plan, once more tried to stop Neko from going to the factory. Neko asked whether Ryota would also die, and Kana stated that Ryota would likely survive. Hearing that, Neko became determined to go to the factory, fully believing their plan would succeed. Ryota thought that if Neko died, everything would lose its meaning. Kana asked Ryota to make sure Neko did not use too much magic, because doing so would activate Neko's harness hang-up function. In addition, using her powers would cause Neko to lose something very precious to her. Neko promised to bring pills back for Kana. Neko and Ryota then prepared to leave, and Kazumi reminded them to be careful. At the same time, Kazumi's body was covered in blood. She had completely run out of pills, but she was not allowed to die before the operation scheduled for 12 o'clock. Kazumi placed all her hopes on Neko's success. Neko and Ryota boarded a train. During the ride, Neko was writing something but did not let Ryota see it. Ryota believed she was drawing, since he knew that Neko was not very good at writing. That night, they arrived at the factory as planned. Neko was supposed to break through the front entrance to draw Saori's attention, while Ryota would slip in through the back and make his way towards Saori to deactivate her harness. When Neko confronted Saori, she deliberately caused a commotion so that Ryota could locate her position more easily. Before entering the factory, Neko had asked Ryota to read the letter she left for him once he was inside. Right at midnight, the operation began. Not long after that, the sound of an explosion echoed through the building, and Ryota immediately moved to carry out his mission. As he advanced inside, he read Neko's letter. At the same time, Kana told Kazumi that she could not see any future ahead. She explained that if things continued like this, Neko would die, and she wondered if Neko had planned this outcome from the very beginning. Meanwhile, Sori noticed Neko's arrival and mocked her for entering through the front door. She dismissed Neko as a powerless witch who could not kill anyone and declared her intent to end the fight in a brutal way. In her letter, Neko explained that she would keep Sori distracted. She asked Ryota to find the pills and escape as quickly as possible. She specifically told him not to try to save her, believing that her life would be more meaningful if it could help Kana and Kazumi survive. As Ryota read on, he realized that Neko had intended from the start to use herself as bait. Even so, Ryota refused to accept the idea of letting Neko die. At that same moment, Kana was shocked when a new vision appeared before her eyes. In it, she saw that Ryota would also lose his life. Back at the confrontation, Sori activated her cutting magic, narrowly missing Neko. Neko pleaded with Sori to stop and questioned why they had to keep trying to destroy each other. Sori's attack tore through Neko's clothing, and when Neko dropped an object from above, Sori managed to destroy it before it could have any effect. Soon after, Ryota reached the place where Sori and Neko were fighting. Sori managed to injure Neko's leg, and Neko tried to counterattack with her magic. However, Neko's harness immediately activated, cutting off her powers and leaving her unable to fight back. Ryota was stunned when he noticed a small mole near Neko's underarm. In that instant, he realized the truth. Neko was Kuroniko. Overcome with emotion, Ryota broke down in tears, relieved that Kuroniko was still alive. He grabbed a metal bar and prepared to help her. Confused as to why Neko did not seem to remember him at all, Ryota then understood that Neko's most precious possession had been her memories. He made up his mind to create new memories with her to replace the ones that had been lost. When Neko saw Ryota approaching, she was confused by his actions and wondered why he was coming closer instead of running away. At that moment, Sori used her cutting magic again, striking Neko repeatedly and overwhelming her. Ryota witnessed everything unfold before his eyes. He was consumed by guilt at the thought of losing Kuroniko once more, and he refused to accept that fate without a struggle. Sori managed to severely injure Neko's body, and at that moment Ryota immediately struck Sori from behind, aiming for her heart. He pressured Sori to rewind time. Earlier, Kana had informed Ryota that Sori possessed another ability, which was time manipulation, allowing her to rewind time by several minutes. Ryota believed that Sori had no other option but to use that ability. However, unexpectedly, Sori retaliated by using her cutting magic against Ryota. Sori weakened due to the injury and was shocked that a human would dare do something like that to her. She hesitated over whether she should rewind time. Rewinding would consume a large amount of her magic energy, but if she did nothing, she would not survive. In the end, Sori chose to rewind time. After that, she entered a shutdown state. Neko informed Ryota that this was their chance to capture Sori, since Sori could no longer use her magic. Sori tried to run away from Ryota, but ended up falling. Meanwhile, Korofuku informed Chisato that Sori was currently shut down, and Chisato dismissed Sori as useless. Ryota and Neko successfully secured Sori, as the time manipulation had drained her energy and left her unable to move for a while. Ryota asked whether Sori had truly rewound time and questioned what had happened before. He was certain that Sori still remembered everything, even though he and Neko did not. Ryota became visibly nervous when he noticed that part of Neko's chest was slightly exposed, causing his face to flush as he felt he might have forgotten something important. Sori stated that her role was over, and that she would soon be disposed of due to her failure. Neko urged Sori to admit that she had killed her, but Sori explained that such a lie would not deceive the lab staff, since they had ordered her to bring back Neko's harness. Ryota began to wonder whether the harness was truly that valuable to the lab and questioned whether its meaning went beyond simple restraint. Neko suggested that Sori should escape, but Sori explained that it was impossible. The beacon inside her harness continuously transmitted her location, and if she left the factory, the lab would remotely eliminate her. Ryota wanted to try removing the beacon, but Sori believed it would be extremely difficult. Ryota insisted that they had to do something because Sori's life was on the line. Sori realized that it was too early to give up, especially since Ryota and Neko were no longer in top condition, meaning she could potentially overpower them without magic. As Ryota approached to inspect the beacon on Sori's body, it suddenly detached, and its lower left button had already been pressed. In an instant, Sori's body dissolved. Ryota questioned whether there was truly nothing they could do. Nako's eyes filled with tears as she acknowledged that there was no way to save Saori at that moment. She could not understand why Saori was eliminated even though she had not left the factory. Ryota quickly suggested that they search for the pills. Shortly afterward, a strange parasite-like creature appeared near what remained of Saori's body. Ryota reacted in shock and immediately crushed it. Nako could not comprehend what the lab had actually done to the bodies of the witches. At that moment, Ryota realized that the word harness might not mean restraint, but instead sounded like her nest, implying that a woman herself was considered a nest. Ryota and Nako searched everywhere for the pills and managed to find only 2 boxes. After that, they boarded the train again, allowing Nako to extend her life. Nako desperately hoped that Kana was still holding on. Ryota asked when Kana had last taken a death delay pill, and Nako explained that Kana had taken her last dose the day before yesterday. A witch would not survive if she went more than 35 hours without taking the pill. Upon arriving at the observation room, Ryota and Nako rushed inside. Nako broke down in tears when she saw Kana lying weak and covered in blood, repeatedly calling out to her. Kazumi then pointed out that Kana would not be able to respond unless the keyboard was placed near her hand. Nako questioned why Kazumi was there, and Kazumi explained that she had only 1 death delay pill left and had endured until her body nearly dissolved before taking it. She could not give that pill to Kana, but she also could not bear the thought of Kana dying and haunting her. As a compromise, she split the pill in half and consumed part of it herself. Nako placed Kana's hand on the keyboard. Kana expressed her disbelief that Nako and Ryota had succeeded, since her last vision showed both of them dying, leading her to believe they were already gone. Tears fell as Kana felt grateful to see them alive again, and Nako felt overwhelming relief knowing that Kana had survived. Ryota reflected that he and Nako might have indeed died as Kana had foreseen, but time had been rewound because of Saori. Kazumi then told Ryota to give the pill to Kana. Ryota hoped Kana would acknowledge his efforts and the risk he took to obtain the pill, but instead Kana asked him not to act like a show-off. Kazumi then took the remaining half of the stolen pill, which irritated Ryota. Kazumi simply stated that business was business before leaving the observation room. Nako did not object as this had been their agreement from the beginning. Ryota reassured Nako not to worry and mentioned that the place was now only occupied by him, also informing her that there was food downstairs. Before Ryota left, Nako thanked him. As Ryota walked away, he could not get her voice out of his head, since it was the first time Nako had ever called him by his name. That moment caused him to break down in tears as it reminded him of Kuroniko. The next day, Ryota and Nako joined the school field trip. They visited several historical landmarks and later went to the beach. While they were there, Ryota noticed that Nako seemed lost in thought and wondered why she looked so distant. Nako had always wanted to see the ocean, yet even while standing in front of such a beautiful view, she felt an unexpected ache in her heart. Even though Nako was not Kuroniko, Ryota felt happy that he could finally show her the sea. On the following day at school, Nako was asked by the teacher to solve a math problem on the blackboard, and she managed to do it well. Nako was not unintelligent, she simply lacked basic knowledge, and even at that point, she still did not fully understand multiplication tables. From then on, she began to study seriously and made steady progress at school. Meanwhile, Ryota could not stop thinking about something that seemed to disappear whenever Nako used her powers. He gradually realized that what was being lost might be Nako's memories. After school, Ryota asked Nako and Kana to stay in the observatory room. Since Nako's house had completely burned down, there was nowhere else for her to go. He also suggested that Nako join the astronomy club, explaining that the club's activities involved observing the stars every night, which would make it reasonable for her to stay overnight there. Nako then wondered about Kana's situation, and Ryota explained that if anyone unexpectedly showed up, Kana could remain hidden in a safe place. Nako felt uneasy knowing that if she and Kana were discovered, Ryota could also be put in danger for being involved with them. Ryota reassured her and explained that he had already considered the worst possible outcome. He no longer cared what might happen to him, because to him, Nako and Kana had already saved his life. As they walked home together, Nako reflected on what it meant to trust someone. In Ryota's view, a person he trusted was someone who would never deliberately betray that trust. Nako then handed him a small object that she believed to be a strange life form, something like a fertilized alien egg. Elsewhere, Kazumi stayed close to Kana. She understood that Kana must feel bored while Nako was at school. Although Kana did feel lonely at times, she noticed that Nako looked genuinely happy while studying, and she did not want to become a burden to her. Kazumi checked whether Kana felt hungry, but it turned out that Nako always made sure Kana had breakfast every day, so she was fine. Kazumi made a careless remark about Kana's situation, which made Kana clearly uncomfortable and defensive. Not long after that, Neko and Ryota arrived and were surprised to see Kazumi there. Kazumi explained that she simply wanted to check on Kana and then decided to move with them to the observatory. Later, Ryota suggested that Neko take a bath to rest and refresh herself. The facility they used was shared, but strict rules and boundaries were still in place. An unexpected series of misunderstandings followed, caused mostly by Kazumi's impulsive behavior and poor timing. The situation quickly became awkward rather than dangerous, leaving Ryota flustered and embarrassed. During the confusion, Ryota accidentally bumped into Neko, which startled both of them. Realizing the situation immediately, he apologized and stepped back. Neko felt strange afterward, unable to explain why her heart was suddenly racing, and she chose to leave to calm herself down. Ryota was left feeling deeply regretful, realizing that his lack of focus had caused unnecessary discomfort and misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Chisato interrogated one of the witches in order to find out the whereabouts of the others. The witch revealed information about Neko, explaining that she had asked Kazumi for help so she could enroll in a school. The witch was willing to share this information because Chisato had promised her medication and an end to her suffering. At the same time, Kazumi and Neko were preparing to go to sleep. Kazumi curiously wondered what Ryota thought about Neko's appearance. Ryota felt confused about why Kazumi had decided to place her mattress next to Neko's. Kazumi explained that she could no longer stay at her previous place because laboratory personnel had started surveying the nearby dam, so she decided to live together with Kana and Neko instead. Ryota was surprised by how casually Kazumi made that decision. Kazumi pointed out that Ryota did not really have the right to refuse, since he still owed her for past assistance, and she planned to stay in the observatory room as a form of repayment. Neko did not fully understand what they were talking about. Ryota approached Kazumi and made a teasing remark that annoyed her, as she felt she had already been very open with him before. Frustrated, Kazumi reacted harshly, which left Ryota no choice but to back down. In the end, he allowed Kazumi to stay there until she could find a new place to live. Ryota felt uneasy about the possibility of outsiders frequently coming and going from the observatory. Kazumi told him not to worry and hinted that he would understand the situation better the next day, after which she quickly went to sleep. Later at home, Ryota examined an object that was said to be an alien baby. He believed that some form of data might be stored inside it. However, he was afraid to activate it because he worried that doing so might allow its location to be tracked. Ryota began to wonder whether the object was connected to the parasite inside Saori's body. He considered the possibility that the term fertilized alien egg was just an abstract label for something else entirely. For a long time, Ryota had gazed into the night sky searching for aliens, yet now he found something resembling an alien artifact right in front of him. He desperately wanted to turn it on, but knew he would have to do so in a distant city to stay safe. The next day at school, the teacher introduced a new transfer student, who turned out to be Kazumi. Many of the male students were excited by the arrival of the beautiful newcomer. Kazumi approached Ryota and mentioned that she planned to join the astronomy club. Meanwhile, Chisato was with his subordinates cleaning up the laboratory when Takachiho called him. Chisato immediately went to meet him. Takachiho asked whether Chisato understood how dangerous it was to let witches roam freely. Chisato explained that there had been 27 witches who escaped during a transfer. 8 had been recaptured, 5 bodies were found after they ran out of medication, and the rest were assumed to have met similar fates due to the lack of pills. Takachiho questioned why Chisato had failed to prevent the theft of the medication despite using an AA rank witch. Elsewhere, Ryota scolded Kazumi for acting recklessly by enrolling at his high school. Kazumi explained that she had falsified her records to show that she came from a national academy in Austria. She mentioned that she had German ancestry and could speak German fluently, and that the academic standards there were far higher than Japan's national exams. At that time, Takachiho reminded Chisato that he had responsibilities beyond dealing with witches and was not allowed to delay them. Chisato insisted that he had not neglected that work and had already begun preparing his next move. At the same moment, a girl knocked on the door of the observatory room. She turned out to be a witch sent by Chisato. The girl was also a transfer student and wanted to join the astronomy club. Her name was Kotori. Chisato had deliberately sent only one witch, fearing that sending more could increase the risk of rebellion, which would be extremely dangerous. Ryota asked Kotori to fill out the astronomy club registration form. Kotori was an AA+ rank witch, and Chisato believed that nothing would go wrong. Unexpectedly, after hearing Chisato's report, Takachiho chose to dismiss him from his position. Kotori, a new transfer student, wanted to join the astronomy club. She had already completed the club registration form and handed it to Ryota. Kotori then asked whether the people there were members of the astronomy club. Kazumi admitted that she was a member, even though she had technically joined just that day. Kotori greeted her politely, since she was a first-year high school student and wanted to show respect. Kazumi was surprised by Kotori's appearance and reacted with excessive curiosity, which made Kotori uncomfortable. Kotori quickly asked her to stop. Ryota found it strange that Kazumi often made comments about physical appearances, and he casually remarked that Kazumi should not compare herself to others. Kazumi became annoyed and reacted strongly, startling everyone in the room. Kotori then asked whether the girl lying on the floor was also a club member. Kana explained that she served as the club's mascot and oddly requested to be treated like an object rather than a person. After that, Neko introduced herself and greeted Kotori as well. Kotori asked Ryota about the activities of the astronomy club. Ryota explained that they usually observe stars through a telescope, and that the previous year he had gone up a mountain with upperclassmen to enjoy the night sky. Hearing this made Kotori very excited, and she expressed her desire to experience it herself. Ryota suggested holding a welcome event for the new member by doing a nighttime observation the next day. Kotori agreed immediately, but Kazumi and Kana were reluctant. Ryota insisted, explaining that participation was required if they wanted to remain in the club. Kana was surprised that Ryota spoke so firmly. Kazumi teased Ryota in a playful but inappropriate way, implying there were more entertaining things to do at night than stargazing. Ryota became flustered and confused by Kazumi's behavior. Suddenly, the desk and benches nearby were destroyed. Neko apologized, explaining that she had lost control of her magic. Kotori was shocked and asked what had just happened. Ryota brushed it off by saying it was caused by a sudden gust-like phenomenon and quickly changed the subject. He reminded everyone to wear warm clothes the next day because it would be very cold on the mountain. Kana suddenly asked where they were going, wondering why they were acting as if they lived there. Neko silently signaled her to stop talking. Kotori then excused herself, saying she had something to take care of. Kana asked Neko to take her to the restroom, and Neko carried her. Kotori kindly opened the door for them. Kazumi noticed that Ryota kept glancing at Kana and teased him again in an awkward manner. Ryota thought it must be difficult for Neko to handle everything on her own, but he knew it would not be appropriate for him to help with such matters. Kazumi continued teasing Ryota with suggestive remarks, which made him uncomfortable. Ryota wondered why Kazumi had been acting that way since the day before and commented that she did not need to force herself to talk like that. Kazumi was taken aback and felt embarrassed, wondering if being inexperienced was somehow a bad thing. Ryota reassured her that it was not bad at all and that she did not need to exaggerate her behavior. Kazumi explained that she was simply trying to do her best in her own way. Ryota wanted to ask Kazumi something, but she assumed he was about to comment on her appearance again. When Ryota made a careless guess, Kazumi became angry and tried to lash out. Ryota stopped her and reminded her of Kana's earlier words, that Neko would lose something precious if she used her magic too often. Ryota believed that what Neko was losing had to be her memories. Kazumi did not know the full details, but she believed that Neko might have lost memories she considered unimportant, or perhaps even memories she never wanted to lose. In reality, the experiments performed on Neko had been extensive. She had lost almost all memories from her childhood and could no longer remember what her parents looked like. The next night, Ryota and the others walked up the mountain together. The sky was incredibly beautiful. Ryota carried Kana on his back. Kana felt a little guilty, thinking she might be too heavy, but Ryota said he was already used to it, and joked that soon she might weigh no more than his school bag. Hearing that made Kana blush. Kazumi asked what Neko was looking at. Neko explained that she was observing the summer triangle, made up of Vega from the Lyra constellation, Deneb from Cygnus, and Altair from Aquila. She explained it in great detail, exactly the way Kuroniko used to when she was with Ryota. Neko herself was confused about why she knew all of this. Ryota began to suspect that Neko might truly be Kuroniko. After reaching the top, they set up the telescope. Kazumi complained about the cold, and Ryota wondered why she had worn such light clothing despite his warning. At that moment, Kotori looked at Saturn through the telescope. Ryota asked why she had decided to join the astronomy club. Kotori revealed that she wanted to see aliens. Ryota asked whether she truly believed in their existence. Kotori confidently stated that she did, and that she had seen them before. Ryota noticed a harness-like device on Kotori's back. At the same time, Kana had a sudden vision of the future. In that vision, Ryota would ask whether Kotori was also a witch, and afterward Kotori would cause serious harm to Neko. Alarmed, Kana called out to Ryota and asked him to come closer. Kana warned him that Kotori would endanger Neko, though she did not yet know how it would happen. Ryota immediately approached Kotori, while Neko and Kazumi moved closer to Kana. Neko asked what was going on. Kana explained that she had seen a vision in which Kotori would harm Neko. Kazumi was shocked and began to wonder whether Kotori might also have come from a laboratory. Ryota grew curious about the kind of magic Kotori used. When Kotori noticed Ryota staring at her, she asked what was wrong with him. Ryota immediately asked whether Kotori was a witch. Kotori was taken aback and questioned how Ryota could possibly know that. Ryota explained that there was a harness attached to the back of Kotori's neck. Kotori was confused about how Ryota knew about the harness and became worried that he might be targeted as well. Kazumi then admitted that she and the others were witches too. Kotori was surprised by the coincidence. The group wondered if Kotori was only pretending and asked her to show her magic. It turned out that Kotori's ability was teleportation. Shortly after that, Kotori disconnected. Ryota could not understand how that kind of magic could have been used to kill Neko, but Kazumi believed it was possible that Kotori was hiding a much stronger ability. Kotori pleaded for them to believe that she would never harm anyone. Neko approached them because she wanted to use the telescope. Seeing this, Ryota realized that Neko was more concerned about someone else getting hurt than about her own life. Ryota then invited everyone to continue with their observation, believing it was safe since Kotori had disconnected and could not use her magic for a while. Someone asked Kana whether Neko was the only one who had died in her vision. Kazumi still did not fully trust Kotori, but she was willing to try to let go of her suspicions. After Ryota finished setting up the telescope, he invited Neko to look at the moon. Neko was surprised because the moon looked so close and appeared upside down. Ryota explained that telescopes produce inverted images. Neko then excitedly told Kana about what she had seen. Ryota believed that Neko did understand how a telescope worked, but she may have simply forgotten. At first, Kana was not interested in looking at the night sky, but once she tried, she was genuinely amazed. Kazumi also became interested and took a turn looking through the telescope. Ryota felt that the activity had become a perfect way for everyone to relax. Kotori felt as if everything was a dream, never imagining that she could attend high school, join a club, and create memories like this. Kana saw another vision of the future but chose not to tell Neko about it. After the observation ended, they walked home together. Kana asked Ryota to slow down. She then asked which life mattered more to him, his own or Neko's. Ryota could not answer. All he wanted was to save Neko. Kana explained that her vision had changed. In the new vision, Kotori did not kill Neko but instead killed Ryota. Ryota was shocked by this revelation. Meanwhile, an AA+ ranked witch sent by Chisato entered the city. That same night, Kazumi's witch friend, Shino, was resting after losing her place to stay. Suddenly, a cat approached her and warned her of the danger that was coming. Shino immediately understood and escaped with the cat. Not long after, flames unleashed by the AA+ ranked witch engulfed the area where Shino had been resting. The next day, Ryota returned home from school earlier than usual and immediately asked Kana about her vision from the previous night. At first, Kana had seen Neko being killed near a large lake in the area, with Kotori standing beside her and smiling. Then the vision changed. At the same location, Neko was alive, but Ryota was the one who died. That event was likely to happen that very night. Ryota decided that they should avoid the lake. Unfortunately, Kana's vision did not change even after that decision. It seemed that there was some unavoidable reason forcing them to go there. Kana did not want Neko to know, because Neko would definitely try to find a way to save Ryota. Kana admitted that she did not care if Ryota died, and that the only thing that mattered to her was not losing Neko. Ryota understood. He thought that if Kana truly did not care about him, she would not have shared the vision at all. Ryota believed Kana told him so that he would find a way for both of them to survive. Kana mentioned that when Ryota died in the vision, Neko was bound to that area. Before long, Neko and the others arrived. Neko wondered why Ryota had not told her that he was leaving school early. Kazumi had intentionally brought Kotori with her so Ryota could question her. Ryota asked whether Kotori had escaped like the others. Kotori admitted that she had escaped together with Chie. Kazumi recognized Chie and knew that she used the same type of magic as her. Kazumi asked whether Chie was safe, but it turned out that Chie had just died. Kazumi accused Kotori of killing Chie to take her pills. Kotori was shocked by the accusation. Neko asked Kazumi not to accuse Kotori without clear proof. Kazumi admitted that she suspected Kotori because, in Kana's vision, Kotori would kill Neko. Kotori denied it, but Kazumi was unsettled by the strange expression on Kotori's face. Ryota then remembered Kana mentioning that Kotori had smiled after killing someone in her vision. Ryota thought that if Kotori truly intended to kill Neko and the other witches, there would have been no reason for her to go through the trouble of enrolling in high school and joining the astronomy club. Not long after that, Kazumi received a call from Shino. Shino was asking for help and desperately wanted Kazumi to save her from an AA+ rank witch who was chasing her. She explained that 2 of her friends had already lost their lives because of that witch. Shino begged Kazumi to help her as soon as possible. Neko immediately said that she would go to Shino's location. Shino mentioned that she was currently in a park near the lake. Kana quickly asked Ryota to stop Neko. Ryota immediately stepped in front of her and tried to block her from leaving. He mentioned that according to Kana's earlier vision, the location was near the edge of the lake. Even so, Neko refused to let anyone stop her from trying to save her friend. Ryota realized that Neko simply could not stand by and allow her friend to be killed. Neko threw a table toward Ryota and kept running while Kotori chased after her. Kazumi handed a radio to Ryota so she could guide him from a distance. Kana then stated that Kotori was the one who would end up killing Neko. At that moment, Kazumi prepared to use her magic to help both Ryota and Neko. Soon after, Neko and Ryota arrived at the lake. In the end, the 2 of them went there together, even though the situation was extremely dangerous because they wanted to save Shino. Not long after that, Kazumi informed them that Shino was on the north side of the park. Ryota was surprised that Kazumi could see her location. It turned out that Kazumi was using her magic to hack into the park's CCTV system. Ryota then asked Kazumi to locate Kotori as well, because based on Kana's vision, Kotori had to be somewhere nearby. Kazumi checked every angle of the CCTV cameras to search for Kotori. Suddenly, she told Ryota and Neko to hide near the stairs. Kazumi did not expect the lab to send an AA+ rank witch. She warned Ryota and Neko to stay hidden because the one chasing Shino was Kikako. Kikako kept getting closer, and at that point, Shino was truly terrified. The battery of her radio had run out, and she could only hope that someone would come to help her. Kazumi informed Ryota that Kikako used a cannon-type magic. Even though Kikako was an AA+ rank witch and only relied on a single spell, the power of that weapon was extremely overwhelming. Kikako then fired his magic and destroyed the structure in front of him. It was the first time Ryota had ever witnessed such an incredibly powerful spell. Neko refused to keep hiding because if they did not get closer, her magic would not be able to reach the enemy. Ryota did not expect Neko to confront Kikako directly. Neko believed that the witch who was trying to escape was only rank B and relatively weak, so they needed to protect each other. At the same time, Shino said goodbye to a cat that had been staying by her side and worrying her. When Kikako finally arrived, she tried to run away. Unfortunately, Kikako's magical explosion struck her, causing fatal injuries. Shino lost her life at the scene, and Neko was overwhelmed with grief as she witnessed her friend fall right in front of her eyes.